got one?
I've got a cheat sheet.
Helps. I'm gonna have to run up
Good?
and down, so.
Pens are working?
Just walk back.
Sleep? Okay.
Side of the camera.
Awesome. Alright.
Just eyeballing it.
We're all gonna be.
Just gonna be that one in the picture.
So today we're talking about sleep, sleeping or beyond sleeping, so how to sleep like a champion. So our last month presentation is mental health. Next month is going to be on CTC concussion. So if you know of anybody that would be of interest,
Did one in a row.
come by next month, and we'll be talking about that. So today we're talking about sleep. So the agenda, we're going to understand a little bit about sleep and recovery. What are some of the indications of dysfunction, and what you can do currently when you walk out this room today for some better sleep. And then if you want to take next steps with me, there'll be a QR code at the end. This is not a salesy presentation. It's more about giving you guys the information that you need to be healthy. Jeff, Kevin, and the team have been so gracious to allow me to come in and do these presentations. And I want to make sure that you guys are getting good information, so it's helping you heal, and it benefits these guys. So when you're on their table, you're getting every benefit to health and wellness. So a little bit about me. My name's Dr. Cheryl. I am a sports chiropractor by trade. I played a lot of football, played a lot of soccer. I bang my head pretty good. And these days I am not on the soccer field and not on the football field, but more so in the office and helping people with cellular dysfunction. So if you want, there are cards in the back. There's a QR code that will take you to my link tree. It has all the information on the socials, the website, all that good stuff. So if you want to take one, they're in the back. So a little bit more about me, so you know who's in front of you. Those of you who've been here before have heard this story. I've truncated it a bit for today. So my history, I played a lot of soccer. I played soccer as a youth. I played soccer in college. I played soccer internationally. After soccer, I was a little bit burnt out, but I was still looking for something athletic. And football always intrigued me, but I'm a girl, and at the time, girls weren't really allowed to play football. And then all of a sudden, women's league popped up. So I tried it. And I went out thinking I was going to be the kicker. And they're like, no, you got hands. You're over in the receiver line. I was like, what is this? I absolutely loved it. It's so much fun. I love catching a ball. I love practice. I love running routes. I love the games, but if you put me in practice every single day, I would be a happy camper. I just love running routes. So with all of the athletics, I encountered a number of injuries. I have 2 ACLs. I have a torn up shoulder. I've had back surgery. I've had a number of things happen. But the thing that's the most severe are the concussions. And that's what has driven me in my professional career over the last several years, is trying to unwind what's going on here in my brain. And you can see these are some of the symptoms that I have encountered. Sleep is my #1 issue. It has always been my problem, is sleep. I did not put the concussion cascade in this presentation. We'll talk about that next month. But sleep is definitely within that concussion cascade, and it's one of the key factors in CTE, concussions, concussion recovery, being able to turn over cells properly. So we'll talk about that next month. So this is the intersection of my experiences, my professional experiences, my athletic experiences with the lens of CTE. CTE is chronic traumatic encephalopathy. It is when you hit your brain too many times and the cells inside the brain start to die and your brain no longer functions like it's supposed to. You end up with dementia, and that leads to death. And through all of my history in sports, I thought this was my dream. I thought that I was headed down the CTE route. I thought I was heading down the dementia route, and that many times for athletes, we suicide before dementia because we don't want to put our families through that awful trek. So everything that I talk about is in the lens of CTE. So this particular research article talks about that there's an increase by 34% for every year that a hockey player plays in the NHL. So every year, the propensity to have CTE goes up by 34%, which is pretty high. This is also hockey, and this was a study done with college, junior, semi-pro, and high schoolers. So we know that in the higher leagues, 46% of the individuals that were studied had CTE. Now, I need to preface this. CTE can only be diagnosed once you're dead. They cut open your skull, they slice open your brain, and they take pictures of it. That's the only way that we know how to diagnose it officially at this point. What we can do is we can use the symptomology of those individuals before they died and make references. So what we know is sleep, irritability, inability to digest food, not being able to control mood, and all sorts of things. Those symptoms relate to CTE. So when we talk about this, we're talking about people who have already passed. So when we say this 10% of high school players, they've died too. It's young. It's super young. We're talking about 10% of high school kids that play hockey. Potentially. This one was highly wrote about. Of 376 players, 345 were found to have CTE, and this was a study done by Boston University. Understand though that the players raised their hand and said, I think I have CTE, I'm gonna kill myself here, not here, shoot here, and donate my brain. So they already had an idea that they had CTE. So this is a very high number, so we need to keep that in mind, that it's an extremely high number, because people said, I think I have CTE, please study my brain. But this is still a massive number of NFL players. So this is my updated slide. I updated it a couple days ago. You can see when it comes to CTE, most people decide to take their own life. The rest are dying from dementia, Alzheimer's, heart attack, one illness. He's 83. Good for him. So that's typically the track when you bang your brain too many times. And I thought that this was my track after the number of concussions that I sustained. So I thought I was headed down the CTE track. I thought dementia was my next route. I thought that potentially suicide was an option. This is my wife Amy. I did not want her to have to suffer through caring for somebody with dementia. So we've had some really hard conversations, and I kept asking the question, why? How can I fix this? What can I do? And so today I'm standing in front of you in a much, much, much better place. There are answers. The regular healthcare model is not going to give it to you. So that's why this is what I'm doing now. I'm talking about root cause medicine. I'm talking about cellular turnover. I'm talking about let's make sure that the brain is actually going to function properly. And there are answers. So I just appreciate this one right here for not giving up on me. So a couple premise statements. Let's talk about what I believe. You don't have to believe this. Make your own decisions. Do your own research. This is what I believe, and this is what the premise of this presentation is about. I believe that the body is self-healing and self-regulating. I believe that the body is a better pharmacologist than the guy down the street. Yes. Yes.
So
yes.
Not even close. More stories.
Yes. I believe that we're all designed to be athletic. We're designed to move. And I mean, even when we're injured, our body wants to heal so that we can move. And it's going to compensate so we can continue to do things. And I believe that our body always wants to be at 100%. It doesn't take a day off. It is always going to give you everything it's got. It's going to compensate to the max. It's not going to say, today, I'm going to sleep in 50%. Maybe good enough. No, it's always going to give you everything it's got. I also believe that symptoms are messengers, they're red flags. So they're something that we need to pay attention to. If we put a Band-Aid on it, we should expect other things to break. Just like it's self-healing and self-regulating, I do believe that we can reverse disease. That if our cells are turning over properly, that we will heal. I also believe that our health is a reflection of our environment. And we know from the last presentation that this includes gene expression, and we have approximately 95% control over our gene expressions. We know that if you look at the articles, if you look at the research, some say it's 4, some say it's 20 different generations, that when your bad genes are turned on, that you're going to keep those genes. I believe that you can turn those off by making sure that you're making sure that the cells are at their optimum, getting rid of the plastics in your system, making sure that glyphosate is not part of your diet, making sure you're getting enough sleep. The things that we know we're supposed to do, we can shut off those bad genes and we can turn on the good ones. This is something that is continually changing, is that our environment, place that we live in, that we walk around in, that the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, is so different than it was 10 years, 40, 60 years ago. So we have to continue to adapt to the changes that we're encountering. Okay, so enough of like the pre-sleep. Let's talk about sleeping like a champion. So why do we sleep? We sleep to regulate homeostasis. We sleep to regulate our hormones. We sleep for metabolism. We sleep to make sure that our body repairs. We sleep to make sure that our cognitive ability is intact, so our learning and our memory. We process thought during sleep. And a really big one that we're going to talk about today is we detoxify our brain. That's one of the big reasons why we actually sleep. So these are things that you guys already know. It's just a review. That when we don't sleep, we have a lot of issues. Brain fog, irritability, we don't feel good, we fatigue. Eventually, if we don't correct those things, it leads to disease. I have a shit ton of slides in here, so I'm going to motor through some of them. So why is that a problem? We know that chronic sleep deprivation leads to obesity, it leads to diabetes, it leads to stroke, dementia, cardiovascular disease. We know that it can also lead to cancer. So big problems if we're not sleeping. Cost of sleep. If you look at the comparison, sleep disorders is number 1 on there. $411 billion in the US for costs. And for the individual, it's approximately $50,000 to $150,000 in a lifetime for one person. It's a lot of money.
What do those numbers represent? Medical treatment?
Medical treatment.
Okay.
All right, so some fun facts. We know that more than 50 million Americans suffer from sleep disorders. It's a lot of people. We know that 70%, so 7 out of 10 people will report getting not enough sleep at least once a month. So we have a lot of Americans using prescription drug medications to try to sleep. And we know the research shows us that dementia, Alzheimer's, and we'll get into this a little bit, Parkinson's, autism, these neurological disorders are heightened when we don't sleep. This is for my wife. I put this particular line in. She's a shift worker. We go round and round on what shift she should take next. So we know that shift workers, their lifespan is reduced by about 10 years. Flipping back and forth the days and nights, we're always being on nights. So I want those 10 years. So we need to figure out a different scenario. This is an interesting one. So 32% of athletes with CTE, remember those who passed, had experienced some type of REM disorder, and we're going to get into the types of sleep here in just a second. So 32% of athletes with CTE have some kind of sleep problem. And just as a comparison, usually only 1% of the population in the general pop has a problem with this particular disorder. Okay, so sleep stages. I'm going to blow through these pretty fast. We have 4 sleep stages. 3 are non-REM, 1 is REM. REM is rapid eye movement. Each of them has specific brain waves that happen. Fast and slow, beta, theta, delta. There's a different combination for each phase. Ideally, this is important here, 4 to 6 cycles per night, ideally for an adult. And we'll get into what that cycle actually looks like.
Does that mean going into deep sleep 4 times or 4 to 6 times?
Yes. Yep. So here's the cycle. So when we talk about the cycle of non-REM and REM, non-REM, 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 REM. The first one is where we are kind of in that twilight, where we're slowing down, heart rate slowing down, breathing slowing down, and we're getting ready to go into that actual sleep. And this is going to be a busy slide, so I'll clean it up on the next slide. So this is where we spend most of our time, in light sleep. And when we cycle around, sometimes we don't hit everything every single time, but this is where we spend the most time, is in light sleep. This is deep sleep. This is really important, particularly for athletes. That deep sleep, there we go. That deep sleep is where, and I'll show you on the next slide, is where we actually talk about cleaning the brain. That's where it happens, is in the deep sleep. And then in our REM, it's that rapid eye movement. So that's, different articles, different research will tell you different things. What we think is this is where most memories take place. This is where it gets solidified. Some articles say that it bounces back between deep sleep and all right, so this slide. So wake and transition is in the yellow. We're going to spend the most time in our light sleep. Our deep sleep is where we clean the brain. We think memory learning happens in here, a little bit more here if you look at research. And that REM, what I just talked about, was 34% of CTE individuals had a REM disorder. That disorder is when, and I'll show you a little bit later in the presentation how the brain actually works. That disorder is when the brakes don't turn on. So we have too much movement happen in the arms and legs. We're supposed to be paralyzed during the REM stage. Our brain is very, 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 very active. And the pons, so the brain stem, it turns on GABA. GABA is released, and it's the brake. So it makes us flailing around at night. And that's what that disorder is that the brake doesn't turn on, and the arms and legs, people start flailing. It's an interesting, non-restful way to get a night's sleep. All right, so if you see this guy, it's on that paper. So I made it pretty easy. So what is sleep? This, we're not dead to the world. This is very active. So sleep is active recovery. Talk to Tri-Covery. They're all about recovery. Active recovery. All right, let's talk about the biggest mistake people make. What do you think it is? When it comes to sleep health, what do you think people do? What was that?
Ignore it.
That's one thing. That's one thing.
More is better.
They do think more is better. Yes, you cheated. Yes, thinking that more sleep is better. So what we wanna do is we wanna balance the quality and the quantity. So it's not necessarily that we just need more, we don't need 14, 15, 16 hours, we need quality sleep along with a number of hours. So here's what we need. Babies need a ton, 18 hours. Kids need a lot, teens need a lot, adults need a little less. As we get older, we need less. And we'll particularly slow down in the REM stages, which is kind of interesting. Athletes need 8 to 10 hours, preferably 9 to 10. It's a lot of sleep, but it's part of that recovery process. All right, so we talked about the sleep cycle. We're going to talk a little bit about the circadian rhythms. So these two are in the quality sector. So the single biggest mistake people make when trying to improve their sleep is they focus on quantity instead of addressing both quantity and quality. So that's on that page. We need to name this guy. Call him Bob or something. No? Yeah, she likes names. So we're addressing both quantity and quality. Alright, so circadian rhythms. The biggest thing, I'm not going to get into a ton of science. I am going to throw some science on here, but that's not what people are really interested in. I'm just trying to give you the stuff that you can take away. The stuff that you can take away is that the circadian rhythm is based on light exposure, lack thereof, or increased. That's what's going to tell your brain to slow down or speed up. So light exposure. So what happens? The anatomy of sleep. So we have light comes into our retina, or lack thereof. Maybe it's dark. The retina understands what's happening, and it sends a signal to the hypothalamus. So hypothalamus, whoop, right here. And it's receiving that information from the retina. It sends its information here to the pineal gland. And the pineal gland is responsible for releasing the hormones. So at night, it releases melatonin. And in the morning, when we start to see sunlight, it releases cortisol. So this little guy is really responsible for the release of the chemicals that are important. So as we were talking about with the REM disorder, GABA is released from the pineal, and this brain stem is releasing GABA. So GABA, aminobutyric acid, which is an inhibitory transmitter. It's the brake. GABA is the brake, and it prevents us from moving around when we sleep. Does that make sense so far?
Hi.
All right.
How are you?
So during REM, what we have is we have the thalamus, and we have the cerebral cortex. This is where we have the memories, and this is where we have our cognitive
You don't have to sign
functions,
it. It'll be just
solidify our thoughts and our thought process. So this gets information from our sensory, so our eyes, our ears, what we're feeling, and it sends it to the cortex. The cortex puts it in our dreams, and that's how we solidify it. So we think that short and long-term memory are created during the REM, depends on again what article you read, but it happens in the cortex. Our emotions happen in the amygdala. So if you're scared, it's coming from the amygdala. So a lot of sciencey stuff, not super important, not gonna take that away and be like, oh, my amygdala. But something to have like a basis of how sleep happens. Okay. So here's the question. What signals the brain to wake up or sleep? What is it?
So it's light.
Light. You were very close. You went way farther into the science. There you go. So yes, it's light exposure.
One question
Yeah.
on that. This thing, while I'm sitting doing Garmin Phoenix, thinks I'm going to sleep or taking a nap when I'm sitting on the couch, TV, light, doing a puzzle, an iPad. It's, the only thing I can think of is that my to slow me down, and I'm starting to calm.
Yes, you're probably, you're not, your technology is probably thinking that you're in that first stage of non-REM, that yellow.
Right, okay.
So you're slowing down.
But it's like I've been known before certain arrhythmias to have a 32 beat per minute heart rate.
Okay,
Way back when.
okay. That's
Not
either really
anymore.
scary or really athletic.
I mean, this,
Well, I know where we were at the time.
this was Ironman training, stuff like that. Go out for a run,
Sure.
Not so fun in the ER when they have no idea that you're an athlete.
Yes, yes.
or going in for colonoscopy and you're setting up alarms.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
that, or donating blood.
Yeah, I was at Tom for their way because he's gonna set up all the alarms, check on the force.
So it sounds like, potentially that your wearable is not calibrated to your body.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, and, okay, what setting do I need to change? Because I've been watching that, I know it's not the best, or completely best for accuracy, but it's a metric.
It is a metric, yes, and we're gonna get into that.
And it's like, okay, why I asked about the deep sleep,
Me too.
at most I've gotten 2 times in deep sleep.
Okay.
Most of it happens early in my
Should
sleep.
happen early, that's good that it's happening early. But I would be curious to see if there's a factor that we could update so that you could get a couple more cycles.
I have similar problems with my arm. It's like, oh yeah, nice 20-minute nap, I was driving down home.
Wow, nice of you to stay that calm when you're driving.
Yeah.
You
We're
gotta
gonna talk
target-
about wearable technology here in a minute. I don't have all the answers for wearables. Garmin, I think, is, for the general pop, is really good. I think Garmin kind of misses the mark when you're looking at, elite athletes, or people who are really super active. I like the Whoop. Whoop is my favorite at this point. It may change, but I like the Whoop. It seems to be the most accurate for me.
Now of late, this is, I can go 2 to 3 weeks without having to charge it. Whereas,
Solar.
yeah, solar, I mean, I'm not outside that much anymore, or right now. But Apple Watch had a great feature on it with the ECG, charging it every day. No, please.
WOOP.
Yep, yep. I have a QR code if you guys wanna try it out, there's a, you can get a free Whoop and a free month if you sign up for their membership, but, I have a QR code for that. But Whoop has it's a slide-on battery, you never have to take this off, you can wear it in the shower, you can wear it swimming, you can wear it just about anywhere. It slides on, I charge probably every 4 to 6 days. So it's not awful, and it usually only takes maybe an hour or 2 to charge. Just slip right back on. Okay, so just to kind of review what we talked about. We have light exposure, or lack thereof. Our retinas understand what's happening, if it's dark or it's light. It sends the information to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus sends it to the pineal gland. Pineal gland releases the hormones to say, go to sleep or wake up. And that happens for all of our organs, not just our brain. It happens in our whole body. Questions on that? Make sense? Alright, so when things go wrong. So many times what happens is when things go wrong, instead of actually addressing the root cause, we try to play race car driver, gas, hit the brake. And those are sleep aids. I'm gonna talk a little bit about that. So we know we have different types of stress, and that's what throws our sleep off. We have chemical stress, we have physical stress, we have emotional stress, we have it's what we eat and drink, that would be chemical stress. How we interact with our friends and family or our work colleagues. We're looking at emotional stress. Physical stress, athletes going out and running god-awful numbers of miles. You guys. That's stress. And too much is not a good thing. we want a little bit of stress, we wanna make sure that we're making the body work a little bit, so it will condition to do things that we want it to do, but too much is really hard on the body. So, when that happens, many times we rely on those quick fixes. All right, physical, emotional, and chemical stress. What's the name of this guy? Figure it out. What was it?
Phil.
Phil, all right. So we have physical, emotional, and chemical stress, and that prevents us from sleeping. Why is this a problem? Why are using sleep aids? When we're artificially pushing the gas or we're artificially pushing the brake, why is that a problem? It's because we're not allowing ourselves to get into that REM cycle, all 4 stages. We are inhibiting particularly deep sleep, which is where we clean the brain, and the REM cycle, where we're remembering things, where we're solidifying the things that we learned. And we know that when people use sleep aids, many times they end up with a bigger problem when you try to stop. Alright, so just a refresher of what we talked about. N1 is that transition. Our light sleep is green. Our deep sleep, this is where we clean, is N3. Our REM is where we have our dreams and our cognitive functions. Okay, so we're not going to get into these slides. We could talk about these slides all day long, go line by line. We're not going to. But I just want to throw these up here because there's a plethora of sleep aids. We have pharmaceuticals, we have supplements, we have fun little devices, we have wives' tales, we have all sorts of fun tricks. At the end of the day, nature knows best. So we have natural supplements. A lot of people try to rely on this stuff, but we know that it still affects our REM and our deep sleep. Because we're trying to play pharmacy, pressing the gas, pressing the brake. And we don't know as good as the body knows. So lots of sleep aids. CPAP's a big one people talk about. We'll get into that in a little bit.
Those things suck.
Actually, they push.
Well, they push, but mine attacked me, and I said no more.
So we know that sleep aids artificially induce sleep and they disrupt what?
Rhythm.
Disrupt everything, they're horrible.
Yeah, what are the 2 phases?
REM and deep sleep.
Yep, there you go. Yep, when they artificially induce the sleep, your REM and your deep sleep are disturbed. Okay, so athletes and sleep. So some fun facts. We know that athletes need more sleep, particularly with that physical stress. There's a lot more cell turnover. So there's more tissue to repair. And we thankfully have Jeff and team to help us with those things.
Routine.
So we know that athletes create more information through what I said, physical movement, but also we know that physical movement makes our cells turn over faster. So our cells, we need more energy in the cells, we need energy to get in, we need energy to get out, we need the waste products to get out of the cells. That takes a lot of extra energy. So we are turning over a ton of inflammation. All right, so we talked about this before. 9 to 10 hours for athletes. That's optimal.
Young athlete.
All right, so when athletes don't get sleep, some things that happen, and we can show this in the research. They have worse sprint times. They have decreased accuracy. They get tired faster. Worse reaction times. That's a problem when you're in a vehicle moving at a very high rate of speed. Yes. We have a hard time learning and making decisions. There's a higher risk for injury, and I have a statistic for you on the next slide. And we have a higher risk of illness when we Alright, so this is, here is a quick case study. I won't dive deep into it. The meat of it is that accuracy is, when athletes get more sleep, particularly here in tennis, with tennis players, their accuracy increased from 36 to 42%. Just by sleeping, they didn't do anything else, just increased their sleep. Swimmers, they increased, or I should say they decreased the times off the block. Their turn times were reduced, their kick strokes increased, and their sprint times were decreased as well, so faster. And basketball, this was done, I believe this was a Stanford study. So by increasing sleep to 10 plus hours, they had higher or faster sprint rates. And their free throws increased by 9%. That's a huge winning percentage if you can increase your shot accuracy and make those shots 9%. Alright, some more fun facts. I always wondered, if I stay up late, is it better to like get my homework done as a student, or if I'm working on a work project, is it better to go to bed early, and get up and do the thing, or is it, should I just stay up and do the thing and get my, get my sleep? It is, for athletes, we want to we have more of a negative effect on the body. I'm trying to get out.
Take care.
Nice meeting you, okay?
Thank you.
Athletes who get fewer than 6 hours, here's that statistic on higher risk of injury, 70%. It's massive. That's massive. 70%. Get your sleep. So, sleep patterns. We know the kids that have the highest performance scores. We talked about REM, remember that last quartile up there? They have a little bit less REM, but they have higher amounts of deep sleep, which was that blue quarter down here. And I'll get into the cleaning in a little bit, but that is where we get rid of the cellular debris and the waste products, kick it out, so our brains can function. So athletes, they perform better when they have more deep sleep. All right, what do we call this guy, Phil? Phil. All right. So I've given this answer a couple times. What is it?
9 to 10.
You got it, of course.
So I have a question.
Yes.
On that one graph, it showed by age how much sleep
Yes.
people need.
Yes.
And when it got to the older person there, it was like 5 hours.
Mhm.
The graph hit.
Mhm.
What about the older person who does a lot of physical activity, like an athlete?
I would put them in an adult category rather than the elder category. All right, quick case study. This is me. Sometimes hearing it and seeing it in real life makes it feel a little bit more real, that you can take away and walk away and have an answer. So things that I tried that didn't help at all, that made things worse. This laundry list of things. I tried a lot of supplements. I tried the brake. I tried the gas. I tried the brake. I tried alcohol. I tried making myself pass out. I tried working myself like a dog. I tried staying up multiple days. I tried just letting my body figure out its own rhythm. I can tell you that none of it worked. Not even close. So this is, sleep has been an issue. On that first couple of slides, I said 2007 was when things started to get really bad. So that was just before I graduated from chiropractic school. And school was very intense. I earned my doctorate and my master's at the same time. And I played for football, and I worked, and I was refinishing a house. The only reason I was able to do that is because I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep at all. If I got 45 minutes in the night, that was good. It was so bad that I was not sleeping at all. So I was trying, I was desperate to sleep. Big dark circles. I still have dark circles, but they were massive. I couldn't think. Taking exams was pretty hard, because I didn't have any of that, cognitive ability. I wasn't clearing out any of the waste products. So lots and lots of stuff that I tried. What helped minimally? I removed stress from school and jobs, mattresses and pillows, so that like the physical comfort of sleeping. Blue screens, so TV, no TV in our, we don't have a TV in our bedroom. I think everybody should remove their TVs and their computers from their bedroom. The bedroom should be for sleep and sex, and that is it. I tried the natural lamps, so the ones that shine in your light in the morning. Minimal help. Here's a Velcro. This is a Velcro. So I've tried this. I would say that this is minimal. What this is a fun, talk to the neuro guys. They love fun little trinkets and tools. Let's see if I can. Oh, it's dead. You can tell I haven't used it in a minute. So what this is you put this in your ears as if you're gonna listen to some music. No music. It is just a light. It's like a little teeny flashlight, and it shines in your ear canal, and it's supposed to turn on your brain. So
You leave it on all night?
no,
Oh, okay, just, okay.
it goes for about 20 minutes and then automatically shuts off. So fun little tools. Talk therapy, getting some of the emotional stress off of my shoulders. Peptides. I really like the 157. I know you've tried 157. Peptides are pretty interesting. Hit or miss, depending on the situation, but 157 is very comforting. Diet changes. I have a weighted blanket. It's nice and gray. It's small, but it's heavy. I feel comforted by it. Reading at night in bed. I've tried guided meditation. I used to have a horse. We had to put him down it's been 2 years, a year and a half now. Fantastic grounding, being able to touch an animal. Dog will do well, a cat will do well. They have 4 paws or hooves on the ground, so they're in touch with the cycles of the earth. When you touch them, they help you ground, they help you dissipate some of that extra energy.
So for reading, do you use a real book or?
Yes,
Yes.
real book.
Okay.
Good question.
Kindle is not, is a blue screen?
I don't know that Kindle has that much blue light. I think
yeah.
It's like it has that gray backing.
Right.
But I prefer a hardcover
Okay.
book that I can move the pages, I can hold on to it, I can put a cool bookmark in it.
But it's also gonna depend on what you're reading, you know, a soft story, something like that, other than, you know, me engineering manuals. That's like,
Yeah.
it might put you to sleep by the boredom, but it's not gonna help you sleep.
I tend to gravitate towards nonfiction. I like, there's a book on the back, it is mine, do not take it from me, please. But if you're interested in some of the science that we get into, that book, Jeff, that's totally up Jeff's alley. It's a cadaver book, so you can see inside the brain, you can see the slices of the brain.
What about the sound waves, like the specific?
Yeah, like green noise or white noise. So it can be helpful. What I would say is make sure that you have an off button, an automatic off button. It just shuts it off somewhere between 30 minutes and 60 minutes before you get into that full-on REM sleep. Because by the time you get into the next phase, many times that can wake you up and it destroys the full cycle. So if you needed to go to sleep, you can use it in that yellow phase, even into the green phase, that light sleep, but you want it to shut off so you can get your deep sleep and your REM. Red light therapy, that's right now is huge. Everybody's talking about red light therapy, how it turns over the cells and the mitochondria in the cells. I didn't find that it was really super helpful. Wasn't painful, wasn't hurtful, but I can't say that it was like, oh, it's the thing that helped me sleep the most. And then of course stretching, and these guys they're kings when it comes to kings and queens when it comes to stretching. These guys are
Good. Are you here for an appointment?
All right, so what's the testing time?
Same here.
that's number one. Removing toxins and parasites. I didn't think I had a parasite problem. If you are alive, you have a parasite problem. If you have a dog, a cat, ever had one, I had a horse, we have 2 cats at home. If you walked outside in your bare feet in the grass, you've eaten a salad, likelihood that you have parasites. And it's ugly, and it's not fun to think about, it's kind of, yeah, it's kind of gross. However, we do know that parasites infiltrate the body, they go deep into the joints, they go deep into the cells, and they harbor toxins, and those toxins don't allow that cell to turn over. So when we're talking about having a cell, being able to get information in the cell and information out of the cell, what happens is those toxins, they block the cell receptors, so we can't get information in and we can't get information out. Your cells are just floating around, not doing much. They're lazy because they're congested with toxins and parasites. So removing toxins and parasites, essential. That is the number one thing that has helped. And this goes along with that. So if you can remove the toxins, you can remove the parasites, and you're getting your system to work properly. We're going to go through we're going to talk a little bit more about pooping. I used to be embarrassed about talking about poop, not anymore. I'll talk about poop all day long. So pooping regularly. You should be pooping 1 to 3 times every day. Should be a solid amount. Should be nice and smooth like a snake. So pooping is really important. And last month we talked about gut health and how it affects your brain. So we want to make sure that we're pooping so we can get rid of the toxins. We talked about the light going into the retina. Real sunshine. The lights are fantastic, but real sunshine makes a huge difference. Get up when the sun comes over the horizon. And real darkness. Pay attention to how your body wants to come down when the sun goes down. So real sunshine, real darkness. So we're working with the circadian rhythm. And that's where we get that quality. Exercise helps quite a bit. I have these bolded because these are the big ones. Exercise helps a lot. Chiropractic and these guys with stretching, being able to have proper massage therapy, making sure that our fascia is working correctly. I do brain therapies, lots of brain therapies. It's part of my program. It's not for everybody, but I do some eye movements, I do some cross patterns.
When do you wanna come in?
If that's something you're interested in, we can talk about that later. It's not necessarily for this. Gluten-free diet. So we talked about gut health last time. Gluten-free.
Next week I have Monday at 2:15.
In the United States, we have a ton of GMOs, we have a ton of glyphosate, which is a herbicide, and it clogs the cells. I am happy to eat in Europe. I'll eat meat all day in Europe. For whatever reason, in America, we've decided to destroy how we farm. So my body does not like meat. But I'll import pasta from Italy. When we eat pasta, it's directly from Italy. Or if there's a 000 flour that's imported, I can eat a pizza with that and have no problems.
See you next Monday.
Eat a pizza from Pizza Hut.
Cool, good job.
I'm a
Sure.
Fresh air, being outside, brain dump. So when I'll read and I'll use my journal and I'll just brain dump all of the emotional stuff. Get rid of it, get it off my chest, put it on paper, and I can handle it tomorrow. Getting it off of my brain. And consistency. This is the hardest one for me. It's because life happens and it's not always 10 o'clock at night when I can crawl in bed or 8 o'clock at night, whatever. My body decides that it's time. But consistency is really important to be able to have those proper rhythms, those 4-6 rhythms, cycles.
Putting away to work at a decent hour.
It's hard, but yes, that is
Went
key.
to work from home, my computer's always staring at you. Stuff you didn't get done that day.
I know, she's crying at me.
Well, sometimes, I used to wake up in the middle of the night, coding.
Coding.
I mean, just problems would be going on in the brain, whatever coding problem. It's like, okay, go to sleep, and then waking up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
But you have the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you went through the REM cycle.
There you go.
But I mean, it's not a good thing, because it's, I recently tried working later one evening, till 9 o'clock, and then going to bed.
Mhm.
Bad move, because I didn't get much great sleep that night.
It's important to recognize what your patterns are and what works best for you. We do have, I can tell you all the tips in the world, but you also have your own genetics. You have your own, your life is set up in your own manner. You and I have different lives completely, different stressors. So you have to listen to your own patterns. These are just some suggestions.
Like you had up there in the previous slides, it's, exercise. A lot of times I come home from a bike ride. I wanna go to sleep.
Take a nap. I love being able to come home from football, strip at the door, naked, because it was so disgusting. Smelly, hitting other people that are smelling, helmets smelling, pads are smelling, everything's smelling. Stripping at the door, I looked alone at the time. Jump in the shower and then I would sleep minutes after. It was amazing. All right, so we're gonna do 3 tips. Tip number 1, measure what matters. So we're talking about the quality and the quantity. So when we talk about sleep studies, yes, they're a measurement, but I want to caution you on the end result of sleep studies. What are they really trying to get you towards?
CPAP.
CPAP. That's their answer, CPAP. They're gonna do nothing, they're gonna give you CPAP, or they're gonna put you on meds.
It's a horribly artificial environment. I mean, you cannot sleep. They've got people running all over the place. They've got and they're poking at you. They're this, that. It's like, yeah, it is exactly.
And they want you on your back.
CPAP poison is
Yeah, but it's on my back, it's a normal spot, like over the jaws and a follow, and then I start snoring. Whereas I'm on my side, got figured out it's a lot better.
Yeah, it's a very artificial scenario. So, I love that we have the medical model, because we have emergency care and a ton of science has happened and we can save lives. And I also think that's not the first door that we open. Let's go more conservative first. Let's figure out if we can do the root cause medicine, if we can use chiropractic, we can use stretch therapy, we can use supplements. And then if those things don't work, then we have other places to turn. But if we turn there first, we've negated all the things that could work for us. And when it comes to CPAP machine, we are creating a bigger problem. So as you know, it pushes air, right? So it keeps the airway open, but that means that and I'll get into this in a minute, but our diaphragm doesn't have to work. We don't have to pull that air in. You don't have to use our nasal passages. We lose all tone. I'll get into that in a minute. All right, so we're gonna measure what really matters, quality and quantity. And what I suggest is find something that you can compare over time, not just one night in the hospital with a bunch of stuff all over you. That's really uncomfortable. You want to find something that you can consistently understand what's happening in your system. And that way you can figure out what kind of environmental things influence, good or bad, brake or gas, what's influencing your sleep. So as I mentioned, I love the Whoop. This is what sleep results look like. So it tells you how many times you've moved, your efficiency, it tells you the different phases that you've been in. If you touch on one of these, it tells you at what point were you in those phases. So you can see, were you cycling correctly? Were you off? What happened? Did you drink alcohol? Did you exercise too much? Did you go to the chiropractor? Did you X, Y, or Z? So you have a journal, it's an easy journal, it's just a quick touch button, it takes less than 10 seconds to do. But you can track what's actually happening over time, consistency. So one of the things that it tracks is HRV, heart rate variability. And this is a fantastic tool to be able to see what your general health is. heart rate variability, so the time in between the beats of the heart. How fast can your heart respond to stimuli? Is it just consistent no matter what happens? That's low heart rate variability. And what you do want to have is high heart rate variability. You want your heart rate to be short, fast, depending on what you're doing. So this is just a quick graph for, I guess, informational purposes. Your age is down here, your heart rate variability is here. Figure out where you fall and what your heart rate variability should be. So for a 45-year-old person, approximately 45 is about average. But you can track that every day on your wearables. All right, so I mentioned that there's a QR code. So if you are interested, go ahead and scan that QR code, and it will give you, they send you the actual Whoop, and they send you the battery, all the information that you need with it, and then they give you a free month with it. So it calculates your exercise, and it's pretty darn accurate in what kind of exercise you're doing. I don't have to say I'm spinning, I don't have to say I'm doing a hit, I don't have to say I'm doing manual labor. It knows when I'm sweeping. It's weird how accurate it is. But it will tell you how many calories you need, your resting heart rate is, your strain, your recovery, what does that look like? So I love the Whoop for accuracy. You don't have to love it, but I do suggest that you have some type of consistent wearable so you can monitor what's going on with your sleep.
So, do you think that these wearables fully understand or what the technology is behind them to tell me whether I'm in REM sleep versus deep sleep? Do you know what that's based on? Is it heart rate and respiration?
I think it's multi-factor.
Yeah, this does, it knows respiration.
It's pretty darn accurate. I can't say that it is like end all be all.
Yeah.
But to give you a pretty good idea, yes, it's pretty darn accurate.
These have been around for a while. Has anybody done studies on EMF or
Yes.
downsides?
Downsides, if you talk to Mecca, talk to Dave, he's like, take that shit off. You have no power. So yes, there are downsides. EMFs are a thing. Maybe we'll do a month, one of the months we'll do EMFs and the downfalls of that damage.
Well, they're like addicting. Once you start wearing them, you don't want to take them off
That's
unless
true.
you're in the shower.
That's true. This one you can wear right in the shower.
Yeah, I never go right in
That's when I charge mine.
So for the research that I've looked at, I say that the risk is small compared to the reward. Everybody needs to make their own decision on that though. I'm not gonna say you must. Instead I say I think that it's important that you understand your data points. If you don't measure your data, you are guessing. So maybe wear it for a short period of time if you're worried about EMFs, or you're worried about having a wearable on and reducing your power, as they would say.
And with the data that comes in, let's say automatically or easy, it's a lot better than having to write things down. You know, like going out on bike, power cadence, speed, heart rate, blah, blah, blah. It's all measured, and you get on the bike, it automatically goes up and down.
With the data, you get to make good decisions. All right, Phil, what do we have to say? How do you know the quality and quantity of your sleep? What's tip number one? Measure what matters. So consistently measure your sleep. And tip number two, breathe better. This is where the CPAP comes in. Okay, so if we can strengthen the airway
Tri-Covery, this is Amanda. How may I
here
help you?
and here, we can breathe a lot better. And
Hi,
that
I'm
allows
good,
us to
pal.
have
How
a
are
better
you?
heart rate variability. That allows us
Good.
to get through the REM cycle, all 4 stages more appropriately.
Yes.
Gary knows the book Breathe.
You wanna reschedule?
It's a yellow cover. It's by James Nestor. It's a good book. I highly recommend it if you are into health and wellness. Okay, Yeah, Brian's got it. Yeah. So he talks about, mouth taping as one of the solutions to being able to strengthen,
Doesn't even matter if there's like 3 weeks.
your breathing capacity.
It's totally up to
What-
you. Like honestly.
Still like you to be alive,
Something crazy
some
happened, I mean, you don't even.
And,
Anything crazy
uh,
like that, but it's
funny enough,
absolutely
funny
up to
point,
you.
make sure that if you do tape, that it goes this way.
So
And you can still have a little bit of air if you need to, like separate your lips, don't.
Yeah,
Some
I
other
think
things
so.
that we can do is.
So do you wanna just keep it for now?
We know that as we breathe in through our nostrils, which we wanna open up the nasal passage, we are warming air and we're putting some moisture in it. And that is appropriate for our lungs. That is what we need to be able to breathe appropriately. So some people find that if, when they're just getting started with working on their breathing, that they're a little dry. So, this oil, you can get it on Amazon.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to say it properly. You know how to order it properly, you don't know how to say it properly. That oil, you just put it underneath your nose and it helps,
That sounds good, Bob. Perfect.
So James
You're welcome.
Nestor,
You have a good day, okay?
breathe, bellow cover, excellent, recommendation for starting to understand how to breathe better.
No, that will help your heart rate. So, while spinning, I lowered my heart rate, by 15 beats a minute.
That's significant. Wow.
I was challenged, I was given the technique, and I'm sitting there, okay, let's try this, spinning, heart's going, I went, I don't know, 135 to like 120,
Over what period of time?
oh, minutes.
Just by breathing properly?
Yeah.
And so when you open up the nasal passages, it forces your diaphragm to work more, pulls the air in, and when you use your diaphragm, you are pushing out toxins in your liver, you're pushing out toxins in your intestines, you're manually pushing out stuff. So it's a multifaceted good thing to have your diaphragm here working properly. Nope. Push down. So I know that you guys had a series of a breathing series, yes? It was maybe last year, the year before?
Yeah.
So, Wim Hof, yep, great resource. Another guy that I really like is Sasha Patel. And if you're into that stuff, look him up on YouTube or send me a message and I'll send you a link. He has some pretty good stuff. I really like Sasha. He's very calm. He explains things really, really well. He takes you through some guided breathing and he gives you a lot of good information. So Sasha Patel, he's out of, I think, Toronto. Something else, another not necessarily wearable, but when we talk about measure what matters, the Snore app can give you some pretty good information. This is a screenshot from the Snore app. There's a free version and there's a paid version. Do the free version.
Have you heard of Sleep Cycle? Another app
I have
that
not.
is,
Probably very
good.
similar.
Yeah, and it's got a lot of the, same data in it. And
Does it record your sounds?
yes.
So this is
Pretty-
phenomenally accurate. It's crazy. The cat, cries three rooms down, and it's like meow, and it shows up as. And you can listen to yourself. You can replay the whole night, and each spike is a noise that happened. So you can listen to yourself snore, breathe, move. It's pretty fascinating. If you look that up. Yeah, we have cars that go by.
Yeah.
So again, collecting data, the Snore Lab app. People say, oh, well, if I don't use a CPAP, then my neck's gonna close up. Yeah, that's probably pretty accurate. So lose some of the LVs. Lose some of the extra tissue. Strengthen the bronchioles. Strengthen how you're going to breathe, and it might take some time. And I like to tell people that it's the micro steps that make a big difference. You can't just jump into something and say, oh my God, I'm a superstar. Instead, you gotta say, okay, well tonight I'm gonna try 5 minutes of mouth taping. Tiny little step. Great. Okay, that was kind of weird. Don't know if I like it. let's do 6 minutes tomorrow. So, when we talk about strengthening the nasal passages, we wanna make sure that our bronchioles are not collapsing on ourselves when we're sleeping, right? CPAP keeps it open. So if we tighten up the integrity of our neck, we open the nasal passages, we open the bronchioles, and we remove some of the extra tissue, meaning fat, meaning extra skin, then it gives your system more integrity to stay open. So I kind of say this in jest, like, kind of funny, lose the tissue, but lose the tissue, people. Like, be at an appropriate weight so that you can keep your system healthy. This is along my lines and Jeff's lines, keeping the neck position and it neutral, so you're not sleeping in weird positions and creating a problem for your nasal passages and your bronchioles. All right, we talked about parasites a little bit. What we do know about parasites is that if you drool, or you grind your teeth, or you cap, or you chew at night, the likelihood of parasites is extremely high. And that stuff will go away once you get parasites. Something else that I discovered through this process is that parasites are pretty fascinating, but they like to be awake at night. For whatever reason, they are night creatures, and that's when they're most active, and they will keep you up at night. So if you cannot fall asleep at night, it's a possibility. I'm not saying for sure that this is like, that you have parasites, I'm saying that this is a possibility, something to look into if you cannot sleep at night. Alright, tip 3. This is what we talked about in that blue section that was in the quarter panel here, that deep sleep. So, cells, we talked about cells, they create waste, the nutrients need to get in, the information needs to get in, and needs to get back out. So when waste products can't get out, then we have an accumulation of stuff. And this is where we're talking about dementia, we're talking about Alzheimer's. This is where our tau proteins, our beta amyloid, they are not pushed back out. We don't poop them out, we don't pee them out, they're stuck. And so what happens? So our cells create waste. We prune, which is good, just like in a garden. You want to snip away some of the weeds. It's not a bad thing. People are like, oh my god, we're pruning neurons. Yep, it's okay. We want to make sure that we're keeping the neurons that are working and getting rid of the neurons that aren't working. And we have metabolism. That's the waste product in and out of the cells. It circulates in our brain, and it accumulates in the little spaces. And what happens is the cerebral spinal fluid, the blue stuff all the way around, it comes in and flows around, and it's kind of like your lungs, where you bring in good oxygen and you exchange it for carbon dioxide. It's the same kind of scenario where we're bringing in good nutrients, the nutrients stay, and then we pick up the waste product and we move it out. And it's called the lymphatic system. And we just talked about this, why is this important? Because we know that a number of disease processes occur when we can't get rid of the tangles proteins. Alright, so we just talked about this, the lymphatic system. We know that it flows more rapidly during sleep, particularly deep sleep. We just talked about this. So CTE falls right in that same category. So congestion creates disease. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about removing waste and what happens in the body. This is not just the brain, this is the entire system. This is head to toe. So we remove toxins in a very systemic way. It has to happen in order. If we just try to sleep and push things out at the lymphatics up here, and we have nowhere for it to go, it's just going to continue to build up. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're pooping. Comes back to pooping.
It always does.
Always comes back to pooping.
Everybody poops, that's the best
Everybody
book
poops.
ever.
Yes.
I got everybody that for Christmas.
Pooping, you gotta poop, you gotta get rid of the toxins. So you need to make sure that your colon is clear, and that you're pooping regularly, you're able to expel that waste. What happens then is that we can clear the liver and the bile ducts. So we start looking at the lower organs. And then we have the lymphatic system, which is the interstitial fluid all over the place. You roll your ankle and your ankle swells up. That swelling is part of the lymph. It's that interstitial fluid. So we want to make sure that that fluid can get out. And then we move up into some of the higher organs, and we know that the lymph system, the cerebrospinal fluid, lives right about here. So we want to make sure that all this is clear so that when we sleep, we can get rid of the waste. If we don't, if it's not clear, then it starts spilling over. It's like a bucket. And when you fill a bucket, you don't turn the spigot off, you just keep pouring more into the bucket, it overflows. And what we see is it overflows into the liver, it overflows as like a gallbladder attack, it overflows in eczema, it overflows in ways that are pretty uncomfortable. So what's the correct order? What happens first? Usually we encounter this first, right? Our sink is clogged. Let's think about this as our brain. Our brain's clogged. And we try to attempt to get rid of the clog. So we start looking, we go under the sink. The sink is clear, where do we go next? We go to the stack. The stack's clear. All right, well, it must be all the way out to the street, right? So if this is not clear, it doesn't matter what else is working or is working. So we have to make sure that we go in order. So we're gonna go colon, we're gonna do liver, lower organs, we're gonna do lymph, and we're gonna do lymph in the brain. All right, Phil, what do we got? The 3 simple changes to support sleep health. 1, measure what matters. 2, and 3. Yep, remove that waste.
What about intermittent fasting and autophagy?
Yes, and. So ask the question in a different way, because we could spend hours.
Well, I understand that autophagy doesn't take place until after 17 hours of fasting. So if you're fasting 17 hours a day, it means you're eating maybe once a day, twice if you're lucky. Right? So that kind of doesn't fit that 3 poops a day pattern.
Not really, no. So I think intermittent fasting is an interesting fad. I think that it's okay to engage in temporarily. I don't think it's a lifestyle forever. I think that you're going to be more appropriate for your cells and your tissues if you're eating regularly and you're pooping regularly, getting rid of the waste product regularly. When you are fasting, you're creating extra stress on the cells, you're creating extra stress. Your hormones they're not, so we talked about when the melatonin has a phase, so our circadian rhythm, our hormones also have particular cycles. And when we fast, we throw those cycles off. We can do it for a particular reason. We can do it to lose weight, we can do it to change some type of organ or adipose. We can do it to change our cognitive abilities, but I would suggest not doing it indefinitely. Does that make sense?
No. I mean, there's a lot of information about it and some of it's contradictory.
Absolutely.
And I think, well, first of all, women shouldn't fast the same way.
Just want to use that one today. Nice meeting you. Nice meeting you. Do you need to reschedule anything like that?
Non-existent women.
Thank you.
Especially after menopause women. you're no longer producing estrogen. So that, I kind of don't get how it all fits together. But once you get in a cycle of fasting, it's difficult to break, I think. It's been hard for me.
Okay.
Cause you find yourself you can't eat.
Because you've changed the hormones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, and I know there's more hormones than sex hormones. You know, we got 200 hormones in our body, so, you know, there's a lot going on there. But, I don't know exactly how to change that cycle, cause I can't force myself to eat more. I've been decreasing the amount of food that I've been eating for over a year now.
Okay.
And, it's really uncomfortable when you increase that. I've increased my amount of protein, but that's about it, as far as consumption.
Okay. Have you tried small amounts? I'm talking like a bite or two here and there, over, instead of fasting for 17 hours, fast for 15 hours, or fast for 14 hours, and in that time period of those extra hours, just take a small bite of something.
Well, truthfully, I haven't, only because I realized that, I might not be eating a lot, but at one point I did, otherwise I wouldn't be this size. And to get rid of the fat has been really challenging, especially since I've decreased the amount of food, increased the amount of activity, and it's still, my body size hasn't changed as dramatically as I'd like. So, I guess I've been a little bit afraid to start increasing the amount of food that I'm eating. Cause I certainly don't wanna go backwards. I mean, I've lost 50 pounds but it was over a longer period of time. And I feel like I've got about another 50 to go, but, you know, it's been really difficult, so.
With product fasting, we know that if you consume any calories, your body's gonna say, whoa, we just got some calories, amazing, we need to reserve it. It's not going to turn the calories over. If you're eating often, small amounts very often, your body's like, I don't have to worry, I know food is coming, I'm not scared, and it's gonna be like, yep, shedding. So I prefer my clients to eat all the time versus not eating at all. It helps regulate the hormones in a more natural way. By fasting, you're pressing the gas and you're pressing the brake. You're trying to control it. By allowing your body to do it, it's more natural, and you're allowing the hormones to function. That being said, some people are very successful when they fast, but I do recommend that it's not a lifetime thing. It's only a short term. So consider maybe a small bite here and there. Okay, so I'm on a mission to talk to people who are in the same situation that I've been in with CTE. And if you know of anybody that could be helped, either with their sleep, with their hormones, with their toxins, to be able to save their brain so that they don't end up down the road of dementia, please refer them to me. So what I do is I use a customized approach. I do a lot of testing. I test for all sorts of things. Data really drives what we do. So once we test, we figure out what the game plan is going to be, and we remove the toxins and we restore the tissues, and then we can optimize through some of those brain therapies that I briefly mentioned earlier, and then we figure out how to sustain that for each individual. So like I said, this is not a sales presentation, but that is my process. There are 4 pieces to it: discovery, restore, optimize, and sustain. This is the NeuroShield program. So we do a deep detox, we talk about breathing, we talk about strength, we talk about stretching, we talk about balance, cognitive, focus, brainwaves, community. We have a huge program, and we go deep into the neuroscience, and we go deep into the cells. So this NeuroShare program is specifically for people who have been in my situation on the CT. All right, Phil, what do we got? So what's the name of the signature process that I just said? Pretty darn close. It's very similar. It's NeuroShield. So NeuroShield is my signature program. And this is the process. I book a call, we talk about stuff, and then we determine next steps. It's pretty easy to get started. I send a couple of detailed assessments over so I can gather some information so we have a really good conversation. And we create the game plan on that first initial consult. This is a QR code to do that. I know that I have another QR code here, but if you know of anybody that this would help, I would greatly appreciate it, and so would they. All right, review. So, we talked a little bit about sleep recovery, we talked about sleep dysfunction, and we've talked about what we can do better. So those three things are measure what matters, breathe better, and remove the waste. And this is next time. We'll be talking about CT next time. Next month, right now it's still scheduled for the same time. We'll see what the feedback is about time and day, but right now it's Tuesday at 2:30 on the 11th, here, same place. All right, what'd you guys take away? What did you learn?
What's your opinion on ground routines?
I'm not opposed to it. I think it's an alternative to having an animal or walking around in grass.
Well, there's not a lot of grass in Michigan right now.
Not right now. Not right now, but, I mean, you could do the whole Wim Hof thing and walk around in snow.
Yeah, no.
That was the fun part of going here.
Would you do that one too?
Yeah, did the ice baths outside.
Yep, ice baths are fun.
Yeah.
I love them.
I
Full
want,
plunge.
Oh, I love it.
for the next house, I want a tub with refrigeration built in outside.
Nice. It's great for recovery.
And a
Really love
redhead
it.
sauna.
I mean, it
Oh,
got to
yeah.
be that cold showers with all the way cold were not cold enough.
I agree. I struggle getting in the shower, but I have no problem jumping.
Same thing, I can get into a cold tub for a cold shower,
Not so much, not so much.
Like when we did at, girls.
What else? Do you have any questions? Can I answer anything?
How do you get rid of parasites?
Yeah, good question,
Yes.
Almost everybody that lives on this planet has parasites, so we know the likelihood is high that you have them. The unfortunate thing is we can test for them. The tests are not accurate. So the tests are usually poop tests. So you collect your sample and you send it off to the lab, and they say, oh, we see the DNA, or we don't see the DNA. Unfortunately, with parasites, they hide really well in the tissues, and they're not accurate. So the likelihood is that you probably have them, and then we look at symptoms. Symptoms such as sleep is one of the indications. So how do you get rid of them? So there are a couple of different ways to get rid of them. My favorite way is using Cellcore products. So they're supplements. So there's Pair 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the key is Pair 1. It's the Mimosa pudica seed, and it kills the parasite. So you take it over a number of weeks. It's not difficult to do. It's just a matter of being consistent, morning and evening, and poop them out. You poop out the intestinal ones. You have lung flukes. You have liver flukes. We know that there's at least 200 different types of parasites that infiltrate into the immune system. So you don't get to see all of them, thankfully, right? Yeah. You can see some of them come out. I will tell you my experience. I pooped out a couple of long worms. They're packed inside the poop, and I'm curious, so I said, that's a tail. I don't think poop's supposed to have a tail. Let's see what's in there. And so, yeah, I pooped out some intestinal worms. I peed out some flukes, so they look like clear, translucent little pieces. They're flat. You know, poop those out too. Some of them look like mucus in your poop. So it's a matter of taking some supplements for several weeks, and there you go.
And so did you see a significant change in your sleep after you had done that?
Yes, that was the game changer. That is the whole reason I'm here today. That is the, hands down, the number one thing that has changed my life.
How often do you do that?
So I recommend a couple of weeks every year, once you go through the initial, get rid of them. If we do a full detox, it can take anywhere from, we're looking at all different toxins, not just parasites, but it's usually about a year. And then a maintenance phase, a couple weeks in. Because we know we're gonna eat salads, we know we're gonna eat sushi, we know we're gonna eat pork, we know we're gonna walk in grass, we know we're gonna swim in open swims, right?
How do you feel about plant-based diet versus the carnivore diet? No? Okay.
I think that we are designed to eat. Okay. We know that protein that comes from animals is processed through our system.
Just book it as
That's
90,
more
I'll take care of you.
efficient, and we can sustain the muscle and gain that fat.
Well, what biological units, those receptors that you were talking about, then recognize plant proteins. So if you're eating plants for protein, you're not making any progress.
Not making much progress. It's inefficient. It's inefficient.
So the 4 cycles that you gave, is there percentages attached to those?
It changes throughout the night. So the only one that I have a pretty good percentage is that REM sleep, and it's between 20 and 25%. Throughout the night. Throughout the night. Each cycle changes a little bit.
Well, the Fitbit, it shows you the different times you're light sleeping and REM sleeping, but it doesn't give, I mean, it's all broken up, it's not like one cycle thing or.
The Whoop will tell you what percentage you
Yeah, if you can, you hear that?
space.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Other questions, thoughts, concerns?
So I think we're looking at
Ahas?
the 25th of February.
Processing, okay, processing.
No, I'm just like, okay,
Let's see.
the question about plant-based and all that.
Do you like the 3 o'clock?
Yeah, if you got it,
I
we
can
can
do
do it
that
earlier.
It's the
again, or I can
cholesterol
do
problems
2:15
and all
or.
that other stuff
you can do
that's
2:15.
helped
Is that better? Okay.
Yeah.
by going plant-based.
And then
But
an
then
hour
there's also
again
the
for
cycle
She-
and lots of
Doing a,
exercise.
hey
Really?
Lily, you doing a 30, extra 30 on it?
Yeah, extra 30
I would ask you why is your cholesterol?
I talked to Kevin about it, he says that's okay.
There's
Okay,
something
cool,
upstream
perfect,
that's wrong.
yeah. So I'll put you
That's
in.
what- that's kinda where I'm going with the process.
For 30 minutes, just ignore that.
Gotcha.
It's just how I have to do it to
Right,
concepts
yeah.
already.
And the reason why the body creates more cholesterol is because your body's craving something. So we need to go and ask why, go back. Okay. Why are we creating more cholesterol? Likely it's not
Be ready on
diet.
card if we
We
go.
give, the American diet, the
Yeah,
butter.
you're welcome. You have a great day.
You
okay?
too.
Thank you.
Cheeses and stuff. We've gotten sicker the more that we've changed our diet to be more cholesterol friendly. So,
Okay. But yeah, I'm like going out on a long ride, you smell somebody's barbecue. Oh, I wish I had that steak.
yeah, absolutely. All in moderation. I mean, I think the carnivore diet is, again, a fad. I don't think that's the way to go.
There's just so much right now with, you know,
Yes,
but
yes,
I mean,
there's
for
lots.
us, we switched to, I hate saying vegan, because we're not doing a plant-based diet, really the opposite. And with exercise especially, whereas before, it was, we were having a hard time controlling. So it's worked for us in that respect, but I understand the whole, you know, I understand why, you know, we were meant to eat meat and whatnot, but it's,
Within moderation.
Yeah.
The hypertension
No,
guy
it's-
didn't believe me that I was going out riding 60, 70 miles.